Hello everybody, today we're doing a video for GTA Car Kits in a 2016 Mercedes E-Class, and today we're going to show you how to install our Apple CarPlay and Android Auto kit. As you can see, it's already installed into this car. It's been paired to our iPhone wirelessly. You can also pair it to your Android phone wirelessly. So this is a 2016 E-Class. We already filmed a 2012 to 2015 E-Class, and this car is a little bit different. As you can see, the head unit is different. It has these flat buttons. It's only 2016 that has this head unit. So the installation for the most part is similar. It's just at the back of the head unit, a different wire is used for video. And then also in this car, you don't need to activate auxiliary in the engineering mode settings. So in order to get sound in this car from CarPlay and AndroidAuto, the original Mercedes system has to be set to MB Bluetooth, and I can easily switch back to the Mercedes system by pressing and holding the back button. And right now it's in Bluetooth, so that's how you get sound. The original camera will still work when you put your car into reverse. You're also able to launch Siri by pressing and holding the hang up button on the steering wheel. And now we're going to show you how to install it into this car. So the tools you're going to need is a T25 Torx. This is a flathead screwdriver. This is our panel removal tool. This is our hook tool. This is also a T20 on a short Torx. So we're going to show you why we're going to use this. And of course, you're going to need our product. We're going to begin with using our flathead screwdriver, and we're going to use it to unlock the locks that hold the vents here. So there's one lock over here. So you kind of stick in the screwdriver and unlock it. And then the second lock is right here on the passenger side. Same thing, it's hard to see, but once you insert your flathead screwdriver, you're able to unlock the lock. Now we're going to take our panel removal tool, and we're going to start here closer to the driver. There's a clip that you need to get underneath to unlock. There you go. And we're going to work our way down. And when you get to this point, you have to open up the glove box. And underneath here, there's going to be two more locks. There's one right here and one over here. They're metal locks that you need to slide down. And for that, we're going to use our hook tool to get underneath the lock. And as you can see, I pulled it down and released it. Same for the second lock. So once the locks look like that, almost all the way down, and then there's enough space to stick your finger behind them, that means they have been unlocked. And then you can continue with using your panel removal tool and work your way down towards the passenger window, and this panel removes, and then you're going to have these three connections on top which we need to disconnect. So it's all of them have these clips that you have to press and carefully remove all the vents. So these are the locks that we initially unlocked. So as you can see, they're locked right now, but when we inserted the screwdriver into here, we're able to unlock them and they would be stuck open. Same here on the passenger side. So that's the locks that we've been unlocking initially. So now we're going to use our T20 on this small ratchet, and we're going to be using this short small ratchet because we need to undo these two bolts on top of the stereo. They're the locks that hold the stereo inside. So this is the one closer to the passenger. This is the driver's side. And as you can see, the space here is very short, so you cannot use a screwdriver. So you need to use something like we're showing right here. So we're gonna undo these bolts. Sometimes you can remove them all the way, but we suggest to just keep on screwing until the locks come down enough that the radio comes out. They're pretty long bolts, so you're going to be doing it for a while. Once you do one side, then you can move on to the other side. So when the bolt stops spinning, it's a good moment to check that if the radio can come out. As you can see, the radio still doesn't come out, so you gotta keep doing it more. So you have to do turns, and then once you do some turns, pull on the stereo to see if it released. So as you can see, it hasn't released yet, so we're gonna do more turns. Oh, and as you can see, At this point, the radio moves, so it means that the bolts have been unscrewed long enough that the locks have been released. And at this point, you can start removing the stereo. Once you get to about this length, if you're gonna look from the passenger side, you're gonna see this connection right here. And it's a simple clip on top that you need to press. And now you can disconnect the connection. And now the radio, grab the entire radio and it can come out all the way. So now we're gonna show you everything that comes in the kit and everything we're gonna be installing. So this is the main module, which we're gonna hide behind the screen. This is our main quad lock harness. We're gonna connect it at the back of the head unit, and then these two ends will go to our module. We also have our USB cable, which we're gonna run and install to the passenger footwell compartment. And underneath the module here, we have our wireless antenna. And this is our video wires that are also gonna be connected to the back of the head unit and then into the module. So now we're gonna show you how to install all of this. So at the back of the head unit, so the two things that we're gonna be disconnecting is the original quad lock harness, this big one. So to disconnect it, there's a clip underneath here that you have to squeeze, and then you're able to release the lock. And once the lock is released, you can disconnect it. And then the second thing that we're gonna be connecting to is the video cable. So on this 2016 E-Class, it's this blue wire right here that we need to disconnect. So there's a clip underneath that I'm pressing, and then I'm using our panel removal tool to wiggle the connection out. There you go. So this is the original quad lock harness, and we need to transfer over this fiber optic cable onto our harness in order to have sound after the installation. This fiber optic cable is responsible for sound. So in order to transfer it, we're going to use our hook tool and get underneath this clip right here and release the clip. And this way we're able to disconnect the cable. So now we will grab our quad lock harness that looks exactly the same. We have two sides, one is a female, one is a male. So this fiber optic cable needs to go into the male, and you're just going to plug it in to this outer edge just like it was on the original connection and clip it in place so it clips in. Then the original quad lock harness we have to plug in to the end of our harness. So make sure that the lock is unlocked, and then insert it almost all the way in, and then you lock it in place so everything lines up and the connection goes all the way in. And we will do the same to plug it in our harness into the back of the head unit. So with the lock unlocked, we're going to line up everything, insert the connection all the way in, and then lock it in place. So now we need to do the video cable. So this is our video cable. On one end, this is a solid end with a single connection. So this will go to our module. And the other end has a male and a female. So this has to be at the back of the head unit. So we already disconnected the blue connection before. So this one needs to go into our female. It just plugs in. And then the male end, we will insert it into the blue connection instead of the original one. Now we will install this USB cable. So there's a few ways to install it, but we're gonna do it that this end will be just right here on the passenger side footwell compartment. It's gonna come out through here. Another option that you have is to knock out some blockers inside the glove box and feed the cable that way. But this customer wants this cable over here in the passenger footwell compartment, so we're gonna do it this way. So we grab this end, and over here there's enough space to just push the carpet down and then put the cable in. And now I can catch it over here behind the stereo. As you can see, it's very easy and quick. I'm gonna pull it all the way in, and so you can see this is how it's gonna look once finished. Just a small end, so it's not intrusive at all. So now, in order to get behind the screen, we first need to remove this trim around the screen. And to do that, we're gonna insert our panel removal tool to give you this gap. And then we're gonna pull this whole trim with our hands and we'll unclip. It just held on clips here. And behind there, you're going to see there are two bolts that hold the screen in place. They're both T25 Torx. So there's one right here and one over here. And we're going to just unscrew these two bolts. And you don't need to unscrew them all the way. You have to unscrew them about 90%. And they're going to stay inside the screen frame. Then you can just grab the screen. Then you're going to tilt it down. And we can put it down. As you can see, the bolts are still in the frame of the screen. So this way you're not going to lose them. And when you're doing the installation, you can just leave the screen, but we're going to disconnect it in order to show everything better, in order to see how we do all the wires. And it's simple. There's just two connections on this screen. So in order to feed the wires from behind the stereo all the way up and around the vents and to the back of the screen, we're going to do this. We already done it on this car. This plastic piece that is above the head unit, you can just separate it in the middle so it has space. That way you can hide the wires behind it, and then when the radio goes in, the wiring is not in the way. So this breaking of this plastic will not affect any of the car features, so it's safe to do. And then we're going to route our cable around the vents and not behind the screen. We're going to start with our main wiring harness. So we'll just flip it around here, and then we will get it through to the middle here. And then once you see here, once you get to this point, we're just gonna wrap that cable around that plastic piece that we mentioned before, so it's not in the way when we're putting everything back. And then of course you're gonna maneuver the cable around the vents. So now we'll do the same thing with our video cable. And then the last cable is our USB cable. So once the cables are already behind the screen, then you need to maneuver them and make sure that all of the cables are behind that plastic piece that we separated. So once you're putting the stereo back, they're not in the way, because that's kind of a frame of the stereo. And then over here, we're gonna move them towards the passenger side, so they're not in the way of the vents when we're putting the vents back. There you go. As you can see over here at the bottom, all of the wires are behind the plastic. Then they go around our vents here. Then they go there, and then now they end up behind the screen. So now we can start making all the connections into our module. So this is our module, and we're gonna do the connections into our module. So this is the video cable. Then this is our harness. So there's two ends to a harness, the power harness, and then the second end right here to the CAN harness. And then over here we have the USB cable. And the last thing is to connect the wireless antenna. So the main thing with the wireless antenna is not to place it on the actual module. So we're gonna plug it in here, and then you should put it somewhere away from the module, maybe right here, right below the dashboard, or closer to the driver. But don't stick it to anything metal, stick it to plastic. There's plenty of flat plastic surfaces where you can mount it. So once we connected everything to our module, we can start hiding it behind the screen. And the important part here is not to change any of the dip switch settings. So for this particular E-Class, number 3 and 5 have to be on. So when you're putting everything back, make sure that accidentally the switches do not get changed. And we ship all our modules preset for your particular car, so you don't need to adjust anything. And here, we're just gonna carefully maneuver everything. This extra wires, we're gonna move towards the passenger side. And then you should just end up with two wires. Remember, we disconnected the original screen. And if you did the same thing, then just don't lose these two wires at this point. And now we can put back the original screen. So when putting the screen back, first the bottom edge has to go in. And then once it's in, Then you flip the screen up, and then it's ready to be bolted back in place. So now we're going to start putting everything back. And over here behind the stereo, the things that you're going to make sure of is that the quad lock harness, when everything goes back in, there's enough space here in the middle, so you should guide beforehand the quad lock harness there. And then remember this connection that we disconnected from the side of the stereo, don't bury it behind, it has to come out also. And then, for example, like this video cable has to go behind the frame of the car. Then I'm putting the quad lock harness down, and now carefully we're going to start putting the head unit back. Now I'm connecting this connection right here. And carefully, as you can see, the stereo goes all the way in. At this point, we're going to test everything. So now we have the ignition on, and the main part about CarPlay and Android Auto in this car is that we're going to be using the original Bluetooth sound source in order to feed sound from our system into this car. So our iPhone is paired wirelessly to the MB Bluetooth right now. And first we're going to test it by the wire. So we're going to connect it with USB Type-C. As you can see, the system switches. We're going to allow CarPlay. For now, we're going to just do USB only. And CarPlay is appearing on the original screen. So we have the music here. So everything is working. Our controls are working. We can navigate through CarPlay. And if I press and hold the back button here in the center console, you're going to see that the system switches to the original Mercedes system, so nothing gets lost or disabled. So everything seems to be working, and now we can finish off to complete this installation. So when we're putting this one back, just make sure that the bottom goes in first. And now we can tighten up the locks. As you remember, these bolts are very long, so make sure that you tighten them all the way so they lock the stereo in place. So now we need to put the vents back, but before putting them back, make sure that these two locks that we unlocked before get unlocked first, because when you close the glove box, it kind of pushes them back in place. So just unlock the glove box and pull these locks down. And first we have to connect the 3 connections on top of these vents, so they're color coded. And now we can carefully maneuver the vents inside. And once everything is back in place, now we can lock these locks, 1 and 2. So now the installation has been completed, and we paired our iPhone wirelessly to the system. As you can see, now you can enjoy Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in your Mercedes E-Class. Again, this was a video for GTA Car Kits. I hope you liked it, and we'll see you next time.